to start. It's 48 on my clock. Commissioner Mtalco is going to be a little late, but he's on his way. Therefore, for the record, this is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities. It's a Guam Power Authority work session. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Gutherds. We have a quorum. John, start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to bring up Resolution 2020-01. Okay. This is the third time that we've brought it before the Commission, and GPA management is ready to make a decision, to make a recommendation on this. And again, this is to require that net metering solar system, wind turbine system have frequency control capability or energy storage system in order to be tied into the island power grid. As we have shown in past illustrations, which I will be showing in a few minutes, Exhibit A illustrates that the intermittency of solar PV production and highlights that energy storage systems is necessary to provide smooth energy into the customer's premise and the power grid. Whereas we do have a 25 megawatt solar farm in Dandon, and there is an estimated close to 24 megawatt of net metering capacity now tied into the grid. And without energy frequency control, it results in significant intermittency, degrading again the system reliability. And whereas as I have shown and illustrated, the number of automatic under-frequency load shedding events have increased substantially over the past few years due to intermittency, and in 2019, GPA customers experienced 27 feeder outages due to solar PV systems when they immediately dropped due to cloud cover, causing our under-frequency systems to kick in order to avoid the system blackout. And whereas the customers paying for the system grid are non-net metering customers, because the new battery system that we're going to be installing is all really paid in under depth. And as we all know, NEM gets full credit for whatever they produce and use, actually, due to the solar intermittency. And whereas even in the $1 million integration study that we had conducted, it's a joint study by GPA and the U.S. Navy, it also observed from the PV added, that OPV added with and after phase 2 renewable projects to require ESS support during transient events, in addition to other things really necessary to keep the system operating reliably. And again, whereas we cannot, GPA cannot continue to add intermittent energy production into the grid without requiring all future owned solar PV and wind turbine system to have frequency control capability or energy storage system. We recommend that all new NEM customers must have frequency control capability or energy storage system beginning June 1st, 2020. Furthermore, it's also from all the discussions, from the outreach, from discussions here and in the Commission, we all understand that GPA really can provide economies of scale, putting in batteries, and therefore it will be substantially cheaper if GPA did provide it for all customers. But the main thing is to require that all solar PV systems have a battery component to it, whether through themselves or through GPA. And so therefore we calculated what it costs for the energy storage system that we are putting on the line very shortly, which would improve the reliability of the system, but again will degrade if we don't do anything. And based on what we calculated on a 50-50 share, because as you can see, there's a 50-50 component here in terms of what we're doing with Talafofo and what we're doing with the rest of the system. Calculated out to about $2.43 per kilowatt, and that is the installed kilowatt capacity. That we know at the time of the application, at the time of the installation. So there we can, it's administratively very easy to calculate and bill for. And that's set at $2.43 per kilowatt. So for example, about a 9 kilowatt system, 9 kilowatt system is 9 times, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm not as fast today with my 2.43 times 9 kilowatt system. That's 2187 a month. They will be for battery.
John, you didn't have this in before. This is very interesting. I like this. You're giving them a choice.
Well, we talked about it at the work session. Remember, that's
Yeah.
why he and I ended up, I was at 220, he was at 230, and he's done the calculation better, and it's
Yeah.
240.
And then
It's
the,
reasonable.
right. And
We're on the first,
so again, then there was also discussions
Page
about
5.
should we have
I'm back.
all the net metering customers pay this fee per month? Well, right now they're not paying for any. All of this, the fee of the new ESS is really in the in the depth component of the base rate, no? So therefore, really, we could ask the DUC to begin charging or requiring that all begin, and therefore they're not required to put in their batteries anymore because we are putting it in. No? It's just that now at least there's parity across, at least for the new battery that's being installed. So, and again, it's not clear. I didn't make it clear. I always said new customer, which is kind of what I mentioned also at the public hearing. I was looking myself at new customer, but some of the customers themselves mentioned in the outreach that they don't mind paying a little bit for, so and so. And a little bit for
John, are
so
you
and so is
grandfathered?
about 21.
Are you proposing the grandfather existing, or this would be a
At
new
the-
rate charge?
Yeah.
Is your proposal to charge existing customers also, or just new customers?
I'd say this, my proposal was really the new customers.
Okay, so you would grandfather everybody else, because that's, as you said
Yeah,
at the hearing.
and I'm hoping, well, there's two ways to see it, right? There's one, we can ask them to begin to charge everybody, right? But two, we have a petition before them to request that that net metering customers pay their fair share of the system. And their fair share of the system really, at minimum, is really not debatable, is the depth in the system, the T&D grid and all of that. So the depth in the system includes now the battery that we are putting in shortly.
So existing customers, we have a petition for a rate, and this would be, this second proposal is for a new customer.
Yeah, this is to ensure that all new customers have it, no? But
And what happens to the old customer? What are we proposing there?
No,
right now
I think,
yeah.
let me just clarify. I think what John is saying is there's currently a petition to go in and to get avoided costs from all them customers.
Existing.
Yeah, that's the one. The second one
So
is
that's
this
how we're
one.
dealing with existing, and then this would apply to new.
This would only apply on the energy storage portion. There's a different thing here. In other words, John, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're referring to the fact that you're applying for an avoided cost on everybody, right? Go
That's
ahead.
right, that's on the net system. And in that avoided cost, in that application, they would have to pay for the depth. That's not an avoided cost, no?
Yeah.
The depth, so therefore, in that depth component is already
You'll embed this part.
Would that
the
raise
battery
Would
that
that
we're,
raise the fixed fee? Is that how we would implement the change
no, if you,
for existing?
if you, for existing, if they were to pay, if they would only get credit at avoided cost, then
Oh, we'd
therefore,
lower the
then
instead
they
of one
would
for
be
one.
paying the.
Instead of one for one, we're
Right.
gonna lower it.
Now,
That's what you said.
if that's not really gonna happen, or, and I hate to believe that that's gonna be the case, because that's a runaway train, then at least on the, this component, the battery component that we're putting in, because remember the batteries were being put in the beginning really for the benefit of all the customers, because we were having, whenever you lose a generator, there's an under-frequency trip. Now, because there's more solar PV in the system, which impacts the system more, the same battery is not going to do exactly what we have proposed. It may be a little less, no? So therefore, there is an impact again to them. So all I'm saying is that at least for new customers, they pay this price,
243.
which is will be used in the system, no? Right? And then, if nothing else happens on the other,
At least you get the 243.
at least you get the 243, and everyone, those that have solar PV today don't have to worry about adding in a battery or us requiring them to add in a battery.
But if the PUC changes the one-for-one NEM reimbursement, that would apply to all customers.
That's right.
So a new customer could end up would have a choice of either putting their own in and either going off the grid if they want,
Right.
or if they stay on the grid, they would still pay. They wouldn't have to pay the 243, but they'd be reimbursed at the different NEM if our petition is granted.
That's right, but they will be reimbursed. Yeah, that's
But
correct.
if they put in their own battery, we don't charge
However-
them the 243. Right?
However, they will still have to pay the 245. And the reason for this is that the system today is just to bring us to a certain level, no? If we keep adding them, they'll be degrading. So then if we have to add the system back, then these people again are gonna have to pay more.
So I thought isn't the 243 as you add, let's say the next 1,000 NEM customers now paying 243 times their kilowatt size, right? That's revenue to us that we would put aside for utility scale.
Batteries.
Mitigation.
That's correct. Eh?
Yeah.
But
So-
if they don't pay that, that goes away, then we've degraded the system.
No, I
more.
agree. That's what I think.
Yeah.
In other words,
Yeah.
you can either put in your own system
Right, or pay the
or pay
243.
the 243, but one way or the other, intermittency/storage has to be addressed. Either
Right.
you pay for it and
Or
get your
we're
own,
gonna address it.
or if you want us to deal with it, we're charging you 243. All right, that's for new customers, right?
Yeah.
And then for existing customers, we've petitioned to change, well, for all customers, we petitioned to change the
avoid
NEM,
the
the
cost.
one-for-one, right?
Yeah.
And I apologize, what did we reduce the one-for-one to? What did we reduce it to?
Our petition was to reduce the full credit to avoided costs over a five-year
But
period.
what was the charge?
And
Do you
by the
remember?
end of the 5th year, what's that number? I remember you're phasing it
Okay.
down. Do you remember? what that
Remember,
number
our base rate is about 10 cents.
Okay, right.
And right, say, for example,
Oh, I see.
today, our LEAC now is 13.4. So we're now at 23.4. So eventually, it's gonna be down to about 13.4 plus
You're
some.
phasing out the 10 over
Yeah,
5
we're
years.
phasing out the 10.
Okay,
And the 10 will be a little less based on, other things, but I don't see,
Conceptually,
yeah.
conceptually,
It's
that's-
right about.
That's the way to
right
think
about
about it. The 10 goes away over 5 years for
Yeah.
existing, right? Now, but if an existing puts in a battery, well, I'm sorry, the NEM reimbursement goes away no matter what, right? It's gonna go, that's our request.
Right.
Then, if an existing puts in a battery, that's good for them, right? But that's their own expense.
Yeah.
We're not
They don't pay
charging-
the 243.
And they're not paying the 243,
But if
but
they
they're
want-
still only getting the NEM if we're approved.
Right.
The lower NEM, the phase down
Right.
NEM reimbursement, and all new customers will know that the NEM reimbursement is being phased down, and by the way, you gotta pay a fixed 243, or put in your own batteries.
Battery. So I'm glad that's clear, because what we're saying is, with a petition, we already have a petition before the PUC that says we need to change the one-to-one credit to something that's equitable, right? And you have a proposal and say, this is our proposal. And you're saying, in addition to that, we have a proposal to require, starting June 1st, everybody to have a battery.
I thought only new customers have.
I mean, new customers, yeah, I'm sorry. Starting June 1st, everybody has to put in a new battery. New customers, okay? And what I think I'm hearing is, however, you can give the PUC a choice and say, if you grant us a rate for the battery portion, then that customer has a choice. He can put in a battery or pay 243.
So.
That's what I think I'm hearing. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
That's what I think I'm hearing as well.
Okay.
And then the only other question is, have we explored time of use? Is that something we're looking at as well? That it's sort of that way, as the chairman said, you kind of have, the new persons have a choice, right? You either put in your own or you put in the 243. But as we've seen in other utilities, they create an incentive for you to help pay for that battery, right? We'll pay you for time of use if we can dispatch your energy at night instead of when we don't need it. We don't need it at 12, we need it at 6 o'clock, and we do a time of use. Are you thinking about proposing a time of use rate as a kind of a third piece of the stool?
At some point in the not too distant future, I'm not saying very near future, but not too distant future, time of use will come into play, and but it can really, I won't propose that it come into play anytime before we get phase 3 done. And the reason for that is that the peak time is created by potentially all residentials.
Mostly residential.
Mostly. So therefore, if you start shifting to a time of use today, there's going to be a significant impact on the residential. But because then you'll be paying more. Remember in the daytime it's costing us about base load 10, 11 cents. In the evening it's 19 cents. So therefore, that costs us to be, when you use time of use, that cost is associated to different areas. But even beyond that, even as we look towards electric vehicles and all of that, right? The phase 3 is going to shape. Oops. Right. Get my hands. With utility scale. Therefore, it's going to kind of even it, right? So therefore, now everything beyond that is going to require batteries, no, for shifting. So therefore, you're almost levelizing, but then there are opportunities now for to look to reduce costs at certain thing, but then it's not the of the magnitude of. The phase 3 will significantly reduce the peak because remember, it's about 300 megawatt hours. So that basically shaves from 6 o'clock on to about 11, 12 o'clock at
So it's
night.
kind of like once we do that, we don't really need to incentivize anyone to give us some more dispatchable solar because the phase 3 is doing all the work.
Yeah.
That's correct. And again, there might be some opportunities, but right now it's too close for me to call. But all I know is that if we do it today, it's just not. I won't recommend it today at this point, no, because again, why? The future is going to be the same thing. We're going to take, we're going to shape the first phase 3 is going to shape the peak. The next phase is going to catch, and then start shaving now across the board. So that's how we keep shaving down on the loading, taking away fossil generation for renewables. The renewables always there to kick in if necessary, but now we can generate at lower cost because the advantage we have is that when the generators are not producing the energy, they're not consuming fuel.
Right.
See? But
Everybody wins.
everybody wins. So therefore, even the peak demand, the reserve requirement, all of these are going to change as I come before you by June with a draft of what the future production is going to look like.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember is a lot of things people were talking that is they put in batteries that they're going to charge and then be able to discharge. Now that battery cost is a lot higher than the one that just deals with the intermittency. And what I like about what John's saying is we're going to put the utility scale that's going to take care of that. And for this intermittency, we're going to give customers the choice. If they want to put in their own battery that's at a reasonable rate, but just to catch the intermittency, they can do that. Or if they don't want to do it, then they can pay us and we take care of it for them. And I like that. And John, I think if you do this, I think if you gave the PUC some options, they would say, we want to do that. You can say, look, if you don't do anything, then we're just going to require every new customer, starting June 1st, you got to put a battery on. we can do that. We can just make it a blanket, you have to do this. We're saying, I like what you're doing, you're saying, I can give you a choice. If you cooperate and we will go over the rate, fix the rate, you're gonna make sure we justify the rate, but we get a rate that says $243 and it's like 20-some dollars, you figure it out. Or you can put in your own battery. It's your choice. You put in the battery.
You see, the early on the discussions were, and again, I'm going through the history of NEM and all of this. Early on the discussions were that when the batteries come, we don't need the system and it'll be cheaper and so on. So, well, the batteries have come, no? And what I estimate it to be is for just a frequency is somewhere around 7.5 cents a kilowatt hours, no? For them to completely get off the grid, they probably need 2 sets or 3 sets of that. So therefore, now you're talking about 15 to 20-some cents just to get off the grid, no?
And that's a high price.
And that's not.
That's a good price.
So we're not trying to, we're not trying to kill solar PV rooftops or anything. That's why also the choice is there.
Yeah, no, I like this.
What this brings it down to is less than 2 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah, yeah. John,
So
it's very
by
good.
GPA putting it in, because we're doing it for all solar. It's not just arbitrary. Everything that we're putting in has to have batteries. There's no way we're going to get to
50%.
25, 50, or whatever without batteries, no? And we can do it for about 2 cents, less than 2 cents. So we're saying, let us
Be your battery.
be your battery. Let's work together, and we're not trying to kill solar PV. There's still an economies of scale that they can make it. Maybe paybacks may take a little longer if you own the system, no? But if you don't, I don't know what that. I don't know how that will work out, no?
So John, the only thing is I would urge you to consider some language change down here on number 5 and just say, GPA is authorized to petition the PUC to create this rate schedule. You know what I'm saying? You're authorized to go and petition them to create this rate schedule and fill it out. You know, everything you've talked about.
What page, Mr. Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is page 5. Resolve number 5. You know, we're not adopting anything tonight. I'm just suggesting that
By Tuesday.
by Tuesday, no, by tomorrow night.
By tomorrow, rather.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you know, that however in event the PUC creates, don't leave it up to the PUC. Say, however, GPA can petition the PUC to do this, you know, to this concept. And then if they like it and they approve it, then we have given our customers a choice. That's all I'm saying.
The PUC choice, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, and I'm just,
Well,
it says.
I always favored leveraging the requirement, because the logic is, hey, when we're putting in it, and we're putting in battery, we're dealing with our own storage intermittency issues for utility scale. Right. But then we're learning that, hey, there's an opportunity here, either for all new providers of energy.
Yeah.
Either you deal with intermittency and storage on your own, or you let us do it, and if you let us do it, it's 243.
Yeah.
And then you can decide, right?
Yeah.
And I like the fact that the technical requirement is really non-PUCable. That's a technical requirement.
Yeah.
So we're sort of leveraging that
Yeah.
strength of ours.
I like that.
That says, okay, well, we're going to require this. Now,
In June 1st.
what's the best way to think about it as
Yeah.
well?
We have thought.
You can put in your own battery since we're requiring it, or you can allow us to be your battery until you think 243 per kilowatt hour is too much, and you've put in your own. You know, because I guess theoretically, right? If 5 years from now batteries finally get to where people think they're going to get, I could say, hey, I've put in my new battery now.
I don't want to pay the charge.
Take me up to 243.
Give them the choice.
And then whether, I like what you're saying, time of use is another tool we can play with to encourage, no matter what, we want batteries and intermittency addressed. Whether you do it or we do it, now we might give you another tool to encourage you, right? But one way or the other, we're not adding any solar to the grid, whether it's ours or someone else's, without a provision for storage and intermittency. And either we can do it, which by the way, we're very affordable, or you can do it, or you can opt out later when you've done it with batteries become cheaper. We
And
just don't want, what I've always liked was, we got 2,600 now, to get to 50%, there might be another 7,000 more needed. We can't be in a position 5, 10 years from now going, gee, we just added another 5,000, now we need another battery. System's, going all over the place, and then non-solar ratepayers are paying for a battery, and solar customers tied to the grid still continue to get 1-for-1 and no provision for storage. That's just a cost shift and a sort of responsibility shift that really isn't fair to a
to the non-member.
non-solar customer who just says, hey, I'm okay with GPA, I'm gonna stay with GPA.
Commissioner Tonto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But do the finances work out if you are allowing customers to jump in and out of it, right? So if it's, you either put in the battery or you pay
Oh,
the
yeah,
two forty-three,
that's a good point. Yeah.
and then your financial model is based on, okay, well, here's the debt service, here's the cost per kilowatt hour. Your assumptions are that they stay
In the system. Yeah.
right? So do the finances, John, work out to where, if you have these, let's say 10 years from now, battery storage becomes so ridiculously low, they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna put my own system in. You have all of that revenue drained from the 243 that now they opt out and they get their own batteries. Have you looked at the potential impact of that?
Well,
Yeah.
if it does get much lower, then we will also,
But you're
experience
financing it
Yeah.
10
No.
years before, right? So you got X amount of time that you gotta pay for this battery.
actually, the battery that is, what do you call it?
That
The
addresses.
battery that we're putting in is already being paid off, being paid by the customers in the system, not PV, non-PV customers right now. So this is really in anticipation of more and more. Now, if not too many end up, if it doesn't go to another 10, 15, 20 megawatts, then maybe we won't have to. So this is a future battery that we're gonna have to purchase if,
But we'll be getting 243
You-
for that.
well,
Someone
you'll be
may
getting
put their
some
own
money
array on
for it.
Yeah.
Not pay for a battery. Even if a battery's cheap, they might just say, I think they'll make an economic decision. at that
And then the other part of it is, we can require from another contract to economies of scale, have them put in a little extra battery to cover what's necessary here. So I still feel comfortable that the
finances work, the
and
numbers
then-
work.
And
Yes.
then this number really could change over time,
Okay.
be
Okay.
changed by the PUC. That's the best I can
I
do.
think the point that Commissioner Mtalco brings in is very important. I would ask you to think about, maybe we say to them, if you want to sign in to the program, you're signed in for 5 years. And then you can opt out again. So every 5 years, you can make a choice. Stay in, get out. You-
Accumulating money.
Yeah, because what happens,
case.
just in case, so that every 5 year, your batteries have a real good, I mean, they're really good for what, 5 years, right? Or,
10 years and the
10 years?
batteries, yeah.
Okay,
You talking about the utility scale or the residential?
Our,
It's 20, isn't it?
the new battery we're putting in is warranted for 20 years, and of course, they probably
they'll have to
Trade it
swap it in.
trade it out
Yeah, yeah.
after 10 years.
Yeah, they're charging that.
But
I'm
again,
just saying,
this is, the point in time when we're gonna add a battery is independent on how many are coming in, no?
and
And
John, all I'm
so,
saying is,
yeah.
you need to consider Commissioner Mtalco's point, which is right. You don't want to have your money invested, your finances invested in something that nobody's going to pick up. So I would suggest that you give some thought, to the concept. And you may not have to have it all done tonight, because we're saying to you, can go to the PUC and offer them a choice. You can flush those things out more, but I think where you say you're in for 3 years and then you can get out, and if you're out, you can get in anytime, but once you're in for 3 years. So just give that some thought.
Yeah,
All I'm saying is, just give it
and
some
to
thought.
me, I don't think it'd be significant where they're gonna opt out. Because and again, this charge could be changed over time. It could be even lower than what, because this amount that is here is really for the current battery, which was contracted for
That's the numbers you're
3
using.
years ago. That's the
Right.
numbers I'm using.
Yes,
today.
yes, I got
So
it.
therefore,
came in at 220,
yeah.
you're
And
not
at some
240.
point, you know, if only 1 megawatt came in,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we absorb that and just let that contribute to the system in cost, ne?
And all I'm saying
If it starts
is-
to go
Yeah, and all I'm
more,
saying,
then,
yeah,
the battery.
and all I'm saying is just think about, give those some thoughts.
Yeah.
And
No,
there's only
no, I
one more,
agree.
there's only one more thing I'd like to point out, and I picked up on what you said to Simon about the time of use rates. And I thought I heard you say that as we go forward and we add more and more renewables, and we add renewables that charge batteries to discharge at night, and you shave that peak, you get to the point where maybe time of use rates won't be needed. Because time of use rates is, we have the bubble at night. So you want to change people's behavior and say, don't consume so much power at this time. This block of power, time of use rates is this block of power is more expensive than this block of power. That's what I remember time of use rates being, isn't it?
But there's
Well,
a,
it's the other way of saying it, Mr. Chairman, is that, I'm gonna give you an incentive to put in a battery that I can dispatch.
Oh, no,
Because
I'm just
otherwise-
talking about time of use rates.
Right, right, right. So the incentive is the time of use rate. In other words, right now, we're putting in a battery at our cost, right? We're gonna charge
Yeah.
you $243. Now, if we wanted to, whether we put in the battery or you put in the battery, if 1,000 more people wanna be solar, there's a battery need. Now, the question is, does GPA buy another battery after 1,000? Or we give an incentive to that 1,000
We're-
to better afford
Yeah.
their battery? Either way, a battery's gonna get paid for by.
I know, and I get that, so therefore, the proposals that we're kicking around, the concepts you're kicking around, take care of that. I'm just going back to the original concept of time of use rates. And the original time of use rate concept was, you have a hump, so you try to incentivize people to not use power at that time, and to find other times of the day to use power, so you level it out. That's time of use rates, forget batteries for a minute.
That's just when to use the
That's,
system.
that's just when usage.
They're like
Okay,
brothers and sisters, those
yes.
two concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I-
but all I'm saying, John, is that what I heard you say is, as we go and we evolve with the technology of more and more photovoltaic cells and more batteries, and batteries to charge and discharge, that actually takes care of that, so it addresses that, and in a different paradigm shift. That's all I'm saying.
and
Okay.
then the.
That's another piece of the puzzle.
That's another
The
piece of,
other
that's
piece
all I'm
of
saying.
it, yeah, you're correct, Mr. Chair, and both of you are correct. And then another part is in the low load period of the day. You will try to use potentially time of use for people to charge. This is when we start adding.
This is for those who want to shift their own. Yeah, yeah, I
No,
get it.
when we start adding more and more electric vehicles.
Yeah, yeah.
So then we want them in the low load so that we don't have to back down the generator to less efficient.
But we don't want them to charge it.
So there is a
Yeah.
point, but.
So
Like you
the-
said, we want to
but-
charge it.
but-
Right, so
There's
there's a
gonna
lot
be
of,
different incentives in the future.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, John, all I'm saying is there are a lot of different
great.
moving targets here, but it's all good.
This is the beginning.
This is the beginning. And I like this because if we give the PUC an incentive to look at this too and say, look, if you don't do anything, we're just gonna say, okay, starting June 1st, everybody put a battery in. That's just the way
Buy
it
your
is.
own battery.
Buy your own battery.
You're
But,
not gonna help us pay for a utility scale battery, then you gotta buy your own.
yeah, but we're giving you a
No
thought.
more solar without a battery.
Yeah, and we're
Whether
giving
we do
you,
it or you-
and we're saying, look, PUC, if you want to go down a road, we've got some thoughts, that's all.
Just a quick question regarding the ESS battery requirements. I mean, what kind of cost differential are we looking at on what it would cost just to address the intermittency issue as opposed to being able to, be self-sustaining, right, where they're not actually pulling from
Okay.
the grid?
The phase 2 just has batteries for intermittency, very little load shifting capability. It's not really meant, and those were coming in at 8.5 cents a kilowatt hour.
This is for a residential, not the utility
No,
grade.
the
not the
utility scale. I can only go by the utility scale. And then what I do know is that for a battery, Tesla offered battery, which was even mentioned here in the island as one that would be used. My calculation of that is 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour, just for one set. And one set doesn't take them through the night, no, or through the whole day.
Yeah, I'm just referring to, I'm trying to understand the cost impact to a customer if if we're, you know, based on this resolution, what would a customer who wants to install solar and is now required based on this resolution to install a intermittency, moderating
Energy
battery,
So
what is it
it's
gonna cost them?
about, the 20, based on the 243 per kilowatt, I believe it's about 1.8 cents a kilowatt.
That's what it would cost them to do it on
Yeah,
their own?
on the average, because what you do is you take their installed kilowatt, no, times 20% capacity factor, that's the amount of energy. So you take this total monthly for the month, it cost per month, right? $20 some per month times 12, 240. Divide this by that. That's about less than 1.8 cents a kilowatt hour, compared to the 7.5 if they were to install their batteries.
Okay, 7.5 is if they install it themselves.
versus-
And that's a battery just to address intermittency?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the reason why I'm saying the 8.5 cents is the phase two, the one that we received, which is at the OPA now, is 11 cents. 8.5, 9.5, 10.5. So that's 2.5 cents different between a load shifting and an intermittency at this point in time. So therefore, we do have the economies of scale, the numbers and everything, and then I'm not sure people want to deal with batteries because there's still the issue.
They have to dispose of it and
How do
everything.
you dispose of it
Yeah.
after 10 years and,
You gotta buy a
you
new one
know,
every decade.
yeah, so again, we're trying, we can still promote the whole
No, this is good
sequence, and we're
thought.
providing the partnership, if you will, to make it happen, no? But we ourselves are putting in batteries, there's no doubt that there's necessary, no?
So this resolution we're gonna consider tomorrow
Yes.
with the potential changes to the,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that he makes some
to
changes
the resolve?
to the resolve portion.
I just had a question on the last whereas clause though, line 47 through 50. So the last sentence reads, GPA recommends that all new NEM customers must have frequency control capability or energy storage systems by June 1st?
Yeah.
Do you mean all new customers from June 1st after?
Yeah,
NEM?
beginning June I'm sorry.
Because this reads
No,
as
I'm
though
sorry,
they need to get it,
I meant to say beginning June,
Or after.
after June 1st.
they have to have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just
So
need
in
to-
other words, if you're gonna put in a solar system after June 1st, and you're coming into,
But if you're putting one in the next
In
month,
April
if you're working
or
on it,
March or April.
you're protected. Everyone
Your
gets enough time.
grandfather.
Your
Yeah,
grandfather.
because that was the other aspect, remember,
Yeah.
when you first proposed.
remember I
it,
wanted it
short
January,
window, we
and
said,
then
let's give them enough notice.
I didn't want it April 1st, it was May 1st, now giving people enough time.
I think June 1st is a lot of time.
And so are you going to also amend that whereas clause where it says or avail yourself of the GPA provided battery, or is it you just gonna leave that in the resolve section? Cause you're giving them options, right? The whereas
Yeah.
clause doesn't give them an
Doesn't give
option.
it- there's no
I can
option.
add another whereas, which says
Just so it's
whereas
consistent
we
with the
will-
resolve, yeah.
GPA will petition, the PUC for the option, no?
Yeah,
Okay.
do some language. Okay?
Yeah, we can do that.
Good discussion. Yeah.
And then, Mr. Chairman, John, also just look at language that just says, whereas these moves will actually continue to promote the development of
Renewable
solar,
energy.
renewable energy on Guam, and gives the choice to the individual.
Gives more
to-
choices.
The flexibility to do it, to add it in the way that is in their best economic interest, or however you wanna word it, right?
The way they want to
can-
do it.
We can be their battery, they can put in their own battery, it's up to them, right?
We're
But
giving them
we're providing
choices.
We're providing options for both.
Choices and options.
Something like that.
Yeah, now remember, the reason people may say, well, we don't need batteries forever. You do need batteries at some point, and we're at that point. Remember the duck curve? The center, you can only produce so much in the daytime, and then you have to store it. So basically, that's where we're kind of, where we can keep backing off generators in the future.
Okay.
Because we have so many renewables. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion on that one? No? Okay, that's just discussion. Next one.
Mr. Chair, if I may switch to the third resolution first before we go to the second, and I'm just trying to get some productivity, not productivity, I'm trying to get some done of the, actually real
Your
critical for
choice.
us.
Go, your choice.
2006, and really this is to go out for a new bid on residual fuel oil. The bid is expiring this
The current fuel oil contract.
September, the contract. There were options for renewable, however, Mobile did not want to implement the renewable.
Any idea why?
Well, part of it is they're concerned about this, the shipping, the requirement internationally now that, you know, they have the tankers coming into facilities will have to use medium, cleaner oil and stuff. So they're not sure what their shipping costs may be. But to me, you know, it's February,
Yep, it's getting
December, so what we're gonna do is go ahead out and rebid. We're gonna go to the PUC. Basically, everything is the same as what we did before.
So, John, question, when does the current contract expire?
August 31st.
Okay, August 31st.
Yeah.
So we have the time to put this
So
all
we
together,
get
right?
this there.
We have the time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
That's
we,
usually when we did, I think.
so, you know, we're gonna talk to ALJ.
I'm just asking, that's all. Yeah,
and
you
just
work on
say,
it.
hey, this is the same thing, we just gotta get it, move it out, no?
Well, you need to make sure they understand the time frame.
Yeah.
So the three-year RFP timeframe that takes you to August 31st, 2023?
Correct.
How does that jive with the consent decree?
Consent decree, it says August 2022, no, which will already be into a third year. 2 years only brings us to before that. And the new power plant's not coming on the line until October, no?
Of 2020?
22. In case there's any delays or for whatever reason, hopefully not, no? Then at least we still have that 1 year and then another option. The option for the option years, really, I don't see that happening, but at least for the 3 years.
So you have the option years going a year from when you expect the new plant to come on,
A year beyond,
a year beyond that?
yeah. So we're really covering 1 year, about
Just in
1 year.
case.
Yeah.
But the consent decree, though, has us taking that unit offline
October
a year before that.
2022. But if the power plant doesn't go on, then,
You need the fuel.
You have to run it.
yeah, they won't,
And then we have penalties on the partner side.
yeah.
Hey, you're late,
You,
you
we
Yeah.
only buy fuel 6 months at a time anyways, right?
Uh,
5 years.
every 35 days?
No, every other month, yeah. Because, yeah, we hold about anywhere from 30 to 90 days of supply, yeah. So, like every 45 days.
You know, John, I do have a question on that. You know, if you, when you do negotiate the fuel oil contract, they don't have any minimum purchase you have to make, right?
Are there any minimums? No, I'm asking a question.
I don't know.
Well, I think they're
Wouldn't you have
used
to-
to our consumption. We're a pretty consistent consumer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what they're
Yeah.
paying.
Yep. I'm sorry.
That's shipped in containers, vessels?
No, yeah, tankers.
The tankers, what comes in containers that,
They bring a tanker filled with oil every 45 days. Usually we order about 200,000 to 250,000 barrels, and two types, low sulfur and high, depending on what we need. No?
Where your tank levels are.
That's why we have all these storage tanks.
Yeah.
When we go to one field, then makes it a lot easier to manage.
You know, so I'm just saying, you know, when you do your bid, you know, if you don't specify, if they agree, nobody agrees, you're giving them a range, but there's no
Yeah.
minimum.
Yep.
That's important, because.
No minimum.
wouldn't you have to take the whole vessel when it comes?
Yeah,
No,
but
no, no, no. What I
but
mean,
we
no, no.
order it-
What I mean is in ordering. In other words, before, they don't schedule a vessel every 2 weeks, every 2 months. They order.
We order.
They
based on
order.
the-
They say, we need, you know, when they get the tanks down to like 60-day supply or something, I forget.
You place it.
Then you place an
Yeah,
order.
we know.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
there's no requirement that you place so many orders in the year. That's my point. If there isn't, that's why I asked the question. If there's no minimum, you know, well, you gotta order at least one tank every 2 months.
But we don't actually, we don't get involved in the bid specifications.
No, we're not. I'm reminding them. That's all I'm saying is they,
We give them guesstimated volumes.
yeah, no, and all I'm saying is I'm giving management
consumption is pretty
some
consistent.
thoughts and saying, hey, you know, if you're currently not required to have a minimum for, say, buy 12 tankers in 1 year, then that's good, because then if you don't need that much fuel oil, as we go forward, then you can say, okay, you know, we won't need a shipment for 3 months. You know,
Every,
that's all.
there's a few committees that work out
Yeah, yeah.
all the usage, everything, and then the order so that we have enough tankage to accept a full load.
So historically, on average, we're buying 8 to 10 tankers a year, something like that.
Something, yeah.
Once every 45 days, we bring in a full tanker load, fill up, and, you know, we're filling up our storage tanks, and, you know, on the bottom side, and draining them out on the top side to keep going. So that's, we've been doing that since John had Black Bear.
And the
Which is
most,
a long time.
long time ago, right? Yeah.
Okay? Okay, now, John, what's next?
Next, Mr. Chair, is the 2020-05, and again, this is really, this issue about condominium rates has been around for a substantial number of years, and then, you know, we did tell the proponents that the customers that they need to file their petition with the PUC, which they did. So, you know, we did initial cost of service outline for working with ALJ Horeki. And so then the ALJ also has asked for our recommendation on this. So we looked through it, and this is kind of our recommendation. We're still and again, it's really a policy goal. Where do we go? We're believing that we should go towards eventually a full cost, cost to serve rate. So when we look at the condominium rates at this point, based on the latest cost of service done by our consultant, there's like an 8% difference, no?
Mm-hmm.
We also, I know that the petition is trying to go to residential rates, but the residential rates are only 18% subsidies to the residential rates today. So therefore, to go from here to there, I think we're kind of trying to say, let's set a policy towards eventually getting everybody towards a cost to serve, because there are some opportunities in the near future, you know, with the readjustments, for readjustments.
So you're not phasing, that's why you're proposing a new rate, and we're just gonna stay there for a while, and then continue to evaluate if we're gonna migrate from these subsidies, right?
So this rate now is really looking at their cost to serve and putting them right around cost of service, and in consideration that again, most of this there's several condominiums today that put their systems in without individual meters. We don't want this to be we don't recommend that this be a trend for future condominiums. We're saying anything, as soon as the PUC approve it, any new construction after that has to be following if they're gonna have condominiums with individual and that's what they want, then they have to put in the meter basis, so then each of the customers can
So we want them to
apply.
put in individual meters, or we give them a choice?
We're kind
You
of
don't, it's this
trying to
rate.
grandfathering this group, no?
Right, but in
But
the
the
future,
future-
we're saying you either put in individuals, and here's this rate, but if you don't put in individual,
No, in the future,
want people to put
you're
in
still gonna have, this is the rate as it exists today is your rate.
the rate as it exists today is the
Yeah.
rate for a
Like
new.
what they're paying now before we make a change to this thing. The current rate is based on their demand, what they apply for, and all of that.
Because they're already wired the way they're wired.
That's right. So in the future, you either rewire it, or you either construct it that way, but expect to pay this rate, the existing rate, or put
Construct it with-
individual meters
And you
and
get this rate.
expect to, each individual will apply for individual rates just like an apartment or anything else. But the construction, you know, you cannot reduce your cost and at the same time ask for reduced rates, no? So that's what we're trying to propose.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
How many, there are not many condos that are wired that way with just one meter, are there? How many customers?
No, single meter.
Single meter.
The three-phase demand. How many of customers
For
you have?
Schedule P, we have about 10 customers. In Schedule J, we have about 15 customers.
So a total of,
Single meter.
yeah, so that's a total of 24.
What about G?
And they're probably built
Huh?
into
25.
17.
Page 43.
So we have very few with single meter.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
very
nice.
still with a master meter, that's meters, sub-meters that
Go ahead.
And then I had this question, and maybe Graham can jump in here too. So condominium has a meaning. So I've often seen the other phrase is multifamily housing, because not all apartments are condominiums. Condominium is a legal, it's a term of law, right? There's an association, there's all this stuff, whereas you can have a
If ownership
6-unit
interest.
apartment building with a single meter or separate meters, right? So I'm wondering whether condominium, it's sort of the same issue we're running into when you have a large resident, 6,000 square foot house compared to a 1,000 square foot house, but we call them both residences. And then you get the large house going, hey, just because I'm 6,000 square feet and have a swimming pool, I'm a resident, right? And I found over the many years that causes sort of you're always having to explain, yeah, you're a resident and you're a resident, but your resident is this big and your resident is this big, and you're charged differently. So I'm trying to kind of avoid this problem with condominium. Because to me, condominium has a legal definition. I think of multifamily complex, right? Multi-unit, maybe multi-unit complex, or a better word than condominium. Because in law, condominium has a meaning, right? And I don't, maybe Graham could jump in, or have you thought about that? Or now's the time to make sure we simplify and make the rate class the name of the rate class a more accurate description, so that, I don't want, when you build a 6-unit apartment, you're not necessarily making it a condominium. You're just a guy building 6 units, right? But we're gonna say you get the condominium rate, and I kinda go, and you might go, well, what is
Well,
that?
it could be a condominium. You could have a
But it also
6-unit
could not be,
condominium.
so I'm just saying, because condominium has a term, it's a term of law, whereas multifamily isn't, or multi-unit, or, just describes the building. It doesn't describe, or to me, condominium, I'm looking for a better word than condominium, because condominium has meanings in other contexts. And in the same way that residence is confusing someone that has a 6,000 square foot house and a 1,000 square foot house, yes, we call them residents, but then we have to explain, but you got a demand charge, and you don't have a demand charge. Maybe we have to go to like large residents, small residents. I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that you're creating a rate class, right? Can we also name it in a way that is more universally understood by whoever ends up in this rate class? That you don't have to be a condominium to end up in this rate class. You can
Okay,
just be a
but
large
let me give you a different take on that. Because then again, there's a building called Pedro's Plaza, and they have a rezoning thing. They want to turn it into condominiums.
Right.
So it's an office building. It was built and designed as an office building. Now they're turning it into a condominium. So your name is the service we provide is requiring 3-phase power, so much demand, so many things.
So that's why I'm saying you could call that a multi-unit complex from a rate class. If he wants to call his building a condominium, he can call it a
I think-
condominium. We don't, but that doesn't change our rate class.
I think our
Okay, I
our
like that.
mistake, I think we keep saying condo, but there is what they call multi-family dwelling in
In our
our
policy.
in our policy. So
Multifamily or
we
multi-unit.
use that,
Whatever.
yeah. There is
Oh,
already
no,
in
they put a big sign on front.
And the reason I say even multi-unit, because the chairman brought up as an example, this office building they're now gonna condominiumize it.
Well, that's what
But
they
it's
put a
still,
thing
it's
on
still
sign on front.
multiple
Proposed to
units
be
in a 10-story building and it may not even be multifamily. Now you're seeing commercial, residential, mixed use in a single building. So maybe we can do some research how other community, what do they call
Hawaii,
it?
they do
Do they all call it multi-unit, because.
Multi-use?
uh,
I don't know,
But-
I'm just saying that.
But to me, condominium is a dangerous word, just because I think it confuses, there's many perceptions of what a condominium is, and yet you can have a building, like Pedro's Plaza, this could be a good example. It could be half condominiums and half commercial.
So I don't know, they
Right.
said rezone to condominium.
Well, but I mean, I'm just
something.
saying,
Yeah,
that's a choice of the
that's-
developer, but
right.
you also see lots of development now.
Could choose to do
that
mixed use.
It's a mix, they have retail on the bottom, housing on the top, right, they have clinics. So, but in all cases, it's a multiple unit, with separate meters, right? And I found that over the many years we've been involved with it, I find things like residential and commercial, those words have so much generic meanings that we're always having to explain to somebody, well, I'm a commercial, well, yeah, but you're different for these reasons. I'm trying to get more precise if we can. And I think condominium has a term of law.
We'll work on it
that
for
if you-
tomorrow. Okay.
I keep coming back to multi-unit or multi-family, something like that, but not condominium, right? But think about it, I mean, I love the concept, it's just, yeah.
But yeah, when does it take effect though? There's nothing, just upon approval by the PUC, it goes into effect? You don't give them
We
time to
petition.
adjust?
Well, we're the ones making the adjustment.
No, no, but
No,
it
there's
doesn't
the-
have an effective date in the resolution. It just says upon approval by the PUC.
Right,
Right.
because we're petitioning for a new rate.
But they'll give us when this takes
Yeah,
effect?
they'll say when.
If PUC decides,
Not-
yeah.
not-
The PUC was said, they may
Because
say,
everyone else that's already a current customer, they've built their buildings, they can't change the building, but they may fall into a different rate class.
and again, this will go through, bill payers, real bill rights, so there'll be more hearings and all of those things. anyways.
Okay,
But it's just to get it started. so
From our
that-
side, we start in the
you're
process.
giving them
That's
information.
what the PUC asks us to do, we've done the work. Now we throw it out there and see what happens.
They make the sausage.
So,
John,
sorry.
Commissioner Talco has a question. John?
yeah, so
Sorry.
just on the rate impact to the various customers that the resolution will, will impact, you're actually seeing a reduction they'll see a reduction in rates?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Sorry. If you
What
return
page?
to page 43, there's actually, we analyze it per customer.
Mm-hmm.
So so we have Schedule P and Schedule J. We couldn't give put the customer's name on it, so we
Yep.
just,
No, we got
so just put one. So the rate impact, the proposed rate impact is the reduction, so it's minus 21, it'd be 24% reduction from the current bill.
Mm-hmm.
So in Schedule P, a lot of customers will see a reduction. On Schedule J, most of them will get
Well,
reduction.
every customer in rate P will see a
Yes.
reduction, right?
Yes.
Okay.
On Schedule Rate J, if they do elect it, they won't have much impact. They will have an impact, but there's like 3 to 4 customers who won't have an impact. Not much reduction, but there's 2 customers who actually have to pay more.
1%, yeah.
Yeah.
And John, what is the difference between a rate P customer and a rate J customer?
Yes.
Speaking of how we
demand.
name rates.
Yeah, so
What-
yes, well, people get confused that we are actually scheduling based on your commercial residential. It's not the case, it's based on power consumption and what kind of face meter do you have. So a customer for R has uses less than 200 kilowatts per day. And if you go beyond that, you go to Schedule J. And Schedule J, if you have a demand over 200 kilowatts, then you go to Schedule P.
Right, so again, and we'd have to solve it tonight or tomorrow. I'd love to think of a better way than calling it P and J if there is. We could just think, we don't have to rename them today.
Yeah.
Let's think about, because I mean, the fact that I have to ask this question, and I've been around this business for a long time, I don't know what is the difference, right? And it's demand, it's
Yes.
a number of things, right?
Yes, it's based on demand and also how much power you're consuming per day.
So the demand is, if you're on large power, you say you require 1 megawatt transformer. No? So that's it. So we have to have capacity to cover
Right, so
your,
is it better to call it
yeah.
a large demand rate, small demand rate? I don't know, just,
Yeah.
again, just think about it, because
Yes.
J and P talk about generic, J and P means a lot of things to different people, but it has no meaning unless you, If you have to explain it after you say rate J and P, there's something wrong with what we're calling it, because you have to, it doesn't explain it, right?
Yes.
And maybe we can think of down the road renaming some of these to make it more easy.
I agree with Commissioner Sanchez, because when you say R, they assume it's residential.
Yeah,
That's all you're talking about is residential.
Yes.
So it may be, you know, your lettering system was, a lettering system you guys came up with
The old way it was done.
was,
Back in
but
1984.
people simply assume, oh, R means I'm residential.
I mean, I know when we joined the PUC, we didn't think about changing the name, we were just trying to get it going, right?
Yeah,
But these days.
but you know, that,
This hasn't been changed, I know for the record,
Since you had black hair,
I have black hair,
yeah,
1970.
which is a long
That-
I had here.
Those, nomenclatures are no more, you know, or, so.
But why would, you know, looking at your rate comparison to rate schedule, why would you propose a rate that is different than the cost-based rate?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we did ask the cost consultant about that, because, for example, if we, sorry, if I look on page, sorry,
47, yeah. 47, 47.
so on page 47, for phase 3 for P, so that month, so 24, let's say for the cost base, the monthly charge is $214. So, so right now we're going from $59. For a sudden jump to 2014 would be difficult for some customers. Even for Schedule J, if they currently they're paying $38 per month, and all of a sudden you're to 214, would be considered a rate shock. So when you talk to the consultant, it says normally they have a 3-year phases to go in, but they say that they never go that high of a level. So what they do is he recommended just using $59 for the monthly charges. Then what he did is we increased the demand charge, which was just because demand charge requires how much. Yeah, this is really driver of your infrastructure. The customer service charge is more the billing, yes, those things. And so whatever revenue requirement is, after you get the revenue from the monthly plus the demand charge, is the energy charge. So that's why the energy charge is 6 cents, because after you add all those costs together, and what remaining you divide by what kind of energy they usually gonna produce. So that came out was like 6 cents. So this rate is actually lower than Schedule J and P, a little bit lower, except for the later block, not the first block.
Right, so I guess my question is, this would suggest that you're subsidizing these rate schedules based on the cost base
Yeah.
rates, right?
Yeah, this is not a, what we're proposing is not subsidizing anybody. This is what the total revenue generated is the cost of service
For this group.
for this group. So this is what's gonna cost us to service this condominium multi-dwelling units.
And that differential then really gets applied back to the residential rate, but we're splitting that across 40,000 people.
Right.
That's why the impact is so
But
small.
it is suggesting that you're subsidizing these customers, right?
On,
Because if you weren't, wouldn't you just charge the cost-based rate?
Yes, yes. So if you look on the very portions, it's revenue from rates. If you do the cost base, it's about 1.465 million. 65 million. If you use both this rate, we are probably generating $1.422 million in revenue. So they're very comparable to.
What page are you
So it's not a big subsidy.
No, it's not a big size. It's very comparable. So we are on page.
44?
41.
49.
Oh,
49 or.
41?
Yes, either. 49. So if you, either 47 or 49, will show the comparison between, for example, page 49 is comparison J schedule versus the cost base plus the proposed. And the revenue requirement for the J is in the cost base about 1.465 million, and the proposed, if you use the $59 for monthly charge plus $12 for demand and 6 cents for energy charge, it's about 1.422 million. So the two differences very comparable.
So John, is the way to read this that basically the size of the subsidy is J's subsidy is 3.4% to the residential side, and when you do the math, we're gonna bump the residential side up slightly, 4.7, and reduce this class 3.4, right? Is that the way to read this? That's the way, I
Yeah.
wanna make sure I'm thinking about this. Right.
No. So what the consultant did was look at, let's say, because they were demanding that we should give them the residential rate.
Right.
Yeah, so what we did is he compared it, let's say we get, let's assume they're 1 meter,
Right.
and you're billing them the rate, so it's be $15 plus 1 meter, which is $15. And they say the first 500 kilowatt is
Lifeline.
subsidized, so it's about 6.9 cents.
Okay.
And after that, it's about 8.6 cents. So he times it by energy, how much they will pay for. So from there, he said, if you do the energy rate, you're generating is about $1.4 million if you use a straight residential rate. But instead of J currently is producing $1.47 million. So if you do that,
You're
that's-
knocking out 3%.
yes,
Right.
yes.
But in knocking out that 3%, you're transferring back to the other class, right?
No, actually,
we're not
I mean, We're
transferring.
just trying to equalize it? Well, where does that money go, though? When you reduce this group of people by 400,000.
That's gonna be less revenue to us.
To GPA overall. Oh, so we're, okay.
But we're not shifting.
We're not
to
shifting
anybody.
it. Got it.
The plan is to, over the coming years, to start getting everybody towards cost to serve, and this is probably the beginning.
Yes.
You're eating the change in rates, but you're not recovering based on the cost-based rates as much as you would otherwise.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
So if I look at this one, I'm reading on that line that says all energy towards the bottom. It's 0.15569, 15569, 15569. So you're saying that this class is basically that.
No, but energy is the LEAC part, right?
Oh, energy is
And
the, I'm
LEAC
sorry.
was
that's
before we
right, I'm
lowered
sorry.
it. That was before we
Yeah,
lowered it. That was the,
Yes.
when the guy was doing the rate case.
Yes,
We had
okay.
lowered the LEAC, yeah.
Yes, okay.
So I
But it's
did
the
it.
fixed cost, which, fuel is fuel. You use it, we pass it on
pass
to
it
you,
on.
right?
Yeah.
But the way
I'm
we've
sorry.
allocated the fixed cost, the base rate side of it, is where we're basically reducing, I guess it sounds like we're trying to equalize multifamily housing to the residential rate.
Yes.
And these are the numbers that are emerging, and we'll sacrifice some revenue at the GPA side.
Yes.
And we'll give that back to the multifamily, so that it looks like it's more equivalent, even though
Yes.
you're in a multifamily structure with 1 meter.
Yes.
It's still, at least your residential rate only has 1 meter too, right? So you're trying to equalize it.
But is that unfair to the multifamily complexes / condos
What's gonna go down?
that have single meters?
Well, in effect, they're gonna save 3%, right?
No,
No,
I think
the-
the question is, how does that compare with
Yeah.
the big units that have
No, they're
single-
already getting the other rate, right?
They're getting the residential,
They're getting the residential rate already.
Yes.
which is subsidized, really.
Okay.
So,
It's just that we don't wanna make a bad thing worse by bringing them all the way down to that.
Yeah, I got it.
And
so
we'll eat the difference, the big wheel.
Yeah. So the other thing we asked for was the some modification on rate schedule R, because currently was designed, this language currently was originally for single phase. So there's some individual metered condominiums or individual homes that have 3-phase meters, but their consumption, because in the old days, they might have a pool or central unit, but the technology has changed, or their consumption has changed, but back in the 70s, 80s, they might have needed 3-phase meters. But now with the new technology, only need single phase, but since they already built for 3-phase, they were getting charged on Schedule G. So we, since the consumption is less than 1,000 or 2,000.
We're gonna help them too.
So yes, it sounded unfair to give condominiums with 3-phase meters.
The break.
The break, and not give this other individuals a
These
break.
houses.
These are the large
Yes.
ones, okay.
So we're correcting we're trying to correct as best as possible the construction.
Yeah.
Variances.
When energy was very low in the early,
It didn't make that big a
70s,
difference.
didn't make that much difference. But because it's higher now, but also,
Especially here with
it's been 35, 40 years really. And so they've made a lot of investment into the system already, so.
And so that's in the resolve item 1? That does that, John?
Yes, yes, that is also in the resolution and also on the tariff modification as an amendment
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A, okay. Nowhere in here addresses what you mentioned, John, where you're gonna require new construction to have meters per individual dwelling.
It's on the, may not be in the resolution, it's in, or it's on the,
Is that
in
something
the
that,
schedule.
Yes, so.
Yeah, we should put in the resolution.
So.
Is it in Exhibit A?
Yeah, it's in Exhibit
Exhibit
A.
A.
What we did is said, rather than saying we will not, what we said is, you are, if you are, we assume, let's say, April 1st is what if, let's assume that the PUC approved for tariff. So what we said is, any condominium that is on service or applied before April 1st will get Schedule D for the condominiums. And after that, so we said is, some customers might not want to go in there because they're actually gonna lose money, because the bill actually costs like 3 customers. So we said they have an option to elect it, option to elect in or option to elect not to be on it. And we also said that once you're in it, you can't go to any other rate class. So this is like a one-time,
Pick your,
Yes.
pick your lane.
yes.
Ride
So-
this bandwagon or stay where you are, no?
So anybody else who come in will not be eligible, so they have to engineer their building to,
They have to properly engineer the building.
yes.
You know, that's the reason why I thought that, I just thought of the fact that the water meters, for example, are different. They don't care what building you're serving. It's 3/4, 1 inch, 2 inch, 4 inch, and that all depends on how much water you gotta put in. Yeah, so if it's only 3/4, you only put in so much. But if it's a 2 inch or 6 inch or 8 inch for the big hotels, that's a lot of water you gotta bring in. So there's a bigger charge.
It's easier to.
It doesn't matter what the use is.
It's easier to design water rates than
Yeah,
power rates.
because the use is immaterial.
'Cause
It's,
you could have a little house consume like a big apartment, depending on what the heck they got in their house. right?
yeah, if they big league or whatever, yeah, whatever they wanna do.
So, I mean, I'll give you a good example, right? So, our friends in the friends in the cannabis industry,
Oh, yeah.
that's gonna be 24/7 consumption of power. So how do you differentiate between a residence grower and a 10,000 square foot grower? What rate are they gonna?
So customers for residential is for let's see. So sorry, where's the schedule? So the threshold is 20. So the consumption has to be less than 6,000 kilowatts per month. So if those, so they said here it's not. Yeah, you have to go to Schedule G, J. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Whether you're residential or not.
Yes. Yeah. Good.
You're gonna catch those people.
Yes. Yes.
Monster chillers, and you wanna be a 10,000 square foot cannabis grower, you're gonna consume a lot of energy, and you're gonna have huge demand, and you're gonna be in a higher class,
Yes.
rate class.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Size matters, that's why I was trying to explain it.
It's not square footage, it's consumption that's gonna be.
It's draw, and volume, right?
Yes.
The problem with demand would be the draw, and this is, like Jeff Pyre's was the best example I've ever heard in all the years we've done that. The 1 year he would, the 1 month he had, one day he has that concert, when he needs this off, we have to design a system that, hey, when you want it, this is what we're gonna give you. It's like I was explaining to a customer, if you buy a boat, you can't pull it with a Toyota. Now, you get a big truck. Now, you don't pull that boat every day, you're not in the.
Changing the truck.
But you still gotta buy that truck. So that's, the truck is your demand charge for the 1 time a month, 2 times, well, speaking of boat owners, right? The 2 to 3 times you pull your boat, you better pay for that truck, right? Unless you wanna pull it with your Toyota, you know.
So, let's go to page 51.
Yes.
Okay, so you're on page 51.
Yes.
And that's Schedule Rate G.
Yes.
And then go to page 52.
Yes.
And tell me, how do you take 300,000 or 311,591, and which schedule is it belong to, on greater than 1,000 or greater, whatever that delta is there, because one is 11 million or $12 million projected revenue, another one. Where do those belong? Can you explain that?
Yes. So what the cost contest did is he looked at the rate classes on the customers.
Yeah, so go back. So this Schedule G on page 51
Yes.
is which one on page 52?
Yes. So there's only actually on one customer in G that has this condominium. So he will be putting in the condo in the cost of service of $5.7 million. Yes, and his project revenue is 6.3.
No. Oh, okay, so you're taking that, okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yes.
That's how you apply it.
Yes. Yeah, apparently on the one, there's only one customer.
And that's sort of, it's good that was a sort of another myth. There was a perception that we had thousands of condominiums, and we don't have that many, when you think at the end of the day. It's mostly single-family residential.
You know, it's interesting about the marijuana thing, because our board, our condo board, we just prohibited in our rules any manufacturing, distribution, or growing of marijuana anywhere in
On
the
your
complex.
premises.
Anywhere. Because of the issue of cost to the association and
Is it a
insurance cost
single meter? Because it's a single meter?
for water,
For water.
only for water.
But here,
And you use a lot of water. Plus, the liability, the insurance companies are gonna go after the condos.
How do you know how much water they use?
They use a lot of water. I've been doing research.
this is her prior job,
Remember, I was chief
where
of
she
police,
had,
right?
where she had to know
No,
this.
so,
Any skills?
this is a big issue. This is a big issue.
No,
There are
you're right.
liabilities involved
Yeah.
for insurance. If something happens, there's a fire, something goes wrong in the manufacturing. Plus, we prohibited on premises
You're not going-
distribution,
You're not manufacturing
sales.
ice.
How about machetes?
Growing.
Did you guys prohibit machetes?
Now,
yeah, no machetes allowed in the
machetes.
complex.
Now.
Okay. so-
Okay, any
You got it.
further,
That's
any
how you
further
catch the
questions?
revenue. No,
Or
good.
concerns? Okay, we'll see you tomorrow night with these.
no,
No, you're gonna go to your, oh, what?
GM report, very
Yeah,
quickly.
no,
I just
no,
wanna
no,
show you
I meant the
something.
resolutions.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't even-
Yep, okay.
We're done with the resolutions, go with the GM report. No, that's all I meant.
I'm just very quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
Never been quick, John. You've never been quick.
Okay, again,
But that's okay.
the key part is we're
Still not
overhauling Cabras number 2. We're gonna be down for about 35 days, no? We need to repair a lot of boiler tubes. It's really been very difficult to keep up. Again, but we should have adequate capacity at this point. Here's our peak. It's just starting to creep up, no? Next. Again, this is net metering. We have about 2,086, I believe. And again, nothing's really changed in the, less than 20 per month coming in. But please also note that we haven't done anything and it's been down that low. So it's not like the batteries are gonna kill net metering, no? I've looked at this. Next. Energy sales, again, it's kind of dipping down a little bit at this point, but that's a 12-month moving average scenario. That's for as of December 2019. Next. Demand side management, we have 4.3 million. We have, I think, we have enough to get through March. So we're working on what Fred requires, so hopefully he addresses it in March.
John, just quick, we did apply for the demand side management to be folded into the lead.
That's correct.
And did they say when they might review it?
We're answering the questions is FYI.
It's in review, okay.
So hopefully by next month. Next. But 4.3 has been put in, no? PUC dockets. Again, the PMC is out for bid. They approved the LEAC to 13.4, this from last month. Guide path renewable, that's before the OPA, and there's a lot of scheduled hearings over the next month.
I apologize, PMC is 1 and 2?
Cabras 1 and 2. That's the one we couldn't extend anymore, so we need it for
put on the
another,
bid.
yeah. So that's, PUC has approved that, and we have already issued it. USA consent decree, again, they filed with the court, and about March 13 is when the comment period is over. And then after that, the judge will decide, no? Okudu Power Plant, again, work continues. They have to do the environmental impact assessments, and again, and start applying for the different permits required. So I'll give you more of an update over the next month or two. Right now, it's just a lot of work. We gotta go through historical preservation, all of those things because of the pipeline, everything, and so, you know, I won't really go into a lot of that stuff now. Probably in the next couple of months, we'll be able to talk more. Energy storage system, I'm happy to say that they'll start for the third party. See, we have the LG, the provider, and we're the owners, and we have a third party that knows the system for commissioning is coming in. And once they come in, then we're going to go through the whole testing.
How long do you think it'll take before we turn it on?
They'll start turning it on within the first week of March.
We're in like the fourth year of our 2-year battery program.
Yep. And again,
It's like meters on one.
that gives you an idea of what I said about the evolution of battery system. No?
It's good.
They had,
We're close.
I think we could say we were fortunate that there were some fires that occurred, which let them redesign some of these things, you know, because of early on. So it takes time before you get all the bugs out of a particular technology. And this is one of them.
Risk.
So, and then, so again, the whole process here is, that's from our bonds, 35 million. It's really a frequency control, 40 megawatt, 10 megawatt hour, 15 minutes, you can hold at 40. And again, you can hold 15 or 10 megawatts at 1 hour. So it's just that battery life, warranty 25 years. They have the O&M services. We have it's about $250,000 a year, somewhere around there. And again, the two locations, Hagatnya and the Talafofo. And here's the next pictures. I like to give pictures. Again, this is the Hagatnya.
John, just real quick on that. That's gonna. What are your forecasts on the impact of the under frequency load shedding from those batteries? You think that's
The initial load was about 70 to 80% of the reduction in the number of outages. So I think, and again, so this will probably still be around no? You're still going to have a little bit, but
Much less.
because that curve now is going earlier.
I'm just thinking that if it does come online before the PUC reviews the resolution that we are gonna look at tomorrow, right? It makes a good case to say, this is why,
This is what we
here's
need.
what, this is
Yep.
exactly what we're trying to do. You know, if you can graph out the
Demonstrate it,
reduction in the,
Yep, we can use some of because the plan is to test it. I don't know, Melinda, did I tell you or mention? The plan is to drop a generator. Yeah.
You have to make sure you can
we're
pick it
not-
back up.
I'm not a theoretical.
Which circuits are on the list that month?
We'll let everybody know.
Let's just wait for the clouds to go
We
over.
dropped it and everything was fine. No.
Can we tell you
Can
what
you do
month
that
to
at night when we don't feel?
Yeah, we'll pick a time to stop it. You know,
They're gonna.
We're sleeping.
you'll know if it doesn't work.
Please please pick up your children. None of the lights are working.
I guess that was the 30% part.
No.
Okay, so, John, pictures.
Everybody's going to the mall to eat.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
there's your
here's what it
pictures.
looks like again. Yeah.
This again.
Next. Yeah, again.
And
I'm
when
not
are you going to commission this,
This is
John?
the
When are you
batteries are in
testing?
here. No.
When are you testing?
Beginning their Bion Island, so around March 2nd,
Okay.
they'll begin the whole testing, one unit sequence at a time. And they'll go from Talafofo, I'll be back in the Talafofo first, and then I got, yeah.
You're going on leave.
Yeah. Now remember, Talafofo only takes care of the
Hands on?
the solar PV attendant. and then the Ganya is going to take care of the system. Next, just run through a few pictures. That's what it looks like. I think we'll upload it in the board books. We just came out hot off the press. Next, Talafofo, and that's what it looks like there. That's the next.
Looks like the ones we saw in Kauai.
Next. Next.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're
Just like a system. Next. Own containers for batteries. Next.
they have to be.
That's it.
Okay.
So again, that's coming on the line. We'll be testing it, and so I believe things will go well, and then we'll see an improvement in the system.
That's exciting.
Then we're gonna see, hopefully we get to the point now where I'm not sure if any of you run your clocks on the electric.
Oh, yeah.
It's going
See how
fast.
You see how fast it runs?
I'm early to everything.
That's why, because they
That's why I'm late
they
there.
keep the frequency higher, meaning higher, so that if anything happens, it will absorb. It won't drop as far and drop so many customers. So the batteries now will start to, not perfectly yet. We probably need some more in the system, but it will start to make it more smooth and make that timing better. So okay, so that's it, Mr. Chair. Really, the others,
Financials?
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Just your ARs jumped up in the first quarter and you had an answer.
Yes, that was due to the Navy. They changed their payment processing.
Oh, wow.
You know, it sounds like Guam changing their system.
That too.
That too, right?
yeah, and they're.
But they paid.
Oh, they came in like in the first week of January.
Are you sure the
We
president
do
take the
have
money
some
for the
work
new
to do in
Mexican
the
map?
rest of government of Guam, but we're doing it, and we should get results very shortly. Because
I like that one.
I think
Okay,
that's it,
anything
Mr.
else?
Chair.
Thank you. Tomorrow, 5:30. 5:30,
We
tomorrow.
can just run through the resolutions. We've got
Yeah.
all the reporting. and
Yeah,
like it's-
and we do have 2 executive sessions, one for litigation, one for personnel. And I'll send out some stuff as soon as I get them. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do I look okay with this?
Oh, boy.
No, I like that, John. No, John, actually, you need that. Because
Hair back to black.
no, John, you need that because you get up and walk around.
John,
Miguel doesn't get up most often.
Even Steve Jobs uses that.
You need a turtleneck.
Motion to adjourn.
Turtleneck now.